It's June 2024, and we're in the middle of a fight, maybe for the existence of America as we know it. And even if we pull this off, we're going to have to take on the MAGA fascist Trump movement for years to come. That's why I think you'll want to hear from Dmitri Mehlhorn, one of the Democratic Party's most influential and deepest thinkers, and who also helped steer huge amounts of funding in the party. Me and former Congressman Paul Hodes, who was Barack Obama's 2008 national co-chairman, caught up with Dmitri to ask about the now and the long term. And he had some surprising and compelling, frankly, uplifting points to make about why Democrats are doing pretty well now, why things are likely to continue to look better in the coming months, and what we're going to have to do to win in the years to come. So in terms of the 2024 election and the Democratic Party, what are we doing right now, and what are we doing wrong?
What we're doing right is that we are tied in the fourth quarter of the World Series against a big fascist threat. A movement like Donald Trump's is very dangerous and very scary and very powerful. Donald Trump's movement has marched through the Republican primaries and defeated Hillary Clinton, who was seen as a perfect future president. And variations of Trump's movement have won elections all over the world very recently. And we're tied. And we're tied because Joe Biden, he is seen as a decent man. And that brand is really hard baked, and it makes a lot of the craziness where Trump tries to attack him as corrupt or whatever ineffective. And as a result, Trump's raw criminality stands out as a contrast.
Right now, President Biden is up with a very aggressive contrast ad that's all about the Trump felonies and being found liable for sexual assault.
In the courtroom, we see Donald Trump for who he is. He's been convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault, and he committed financial fraud. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's been working, lowering healthcare costs and making big corporations pay their fair share. This election is between a convicted criminal who's only out for himself and a president who's fighting for your family.
Is that the right focus in the right order in this campaign, or would you rather see something else in terms of messaging from the Democratic Party?
That is the most important message right now, flat out. This is an election between two people that the American electorate knows about as well as an electorate is going to know its nominees. We've known these people for decades, and both of them have been our president. So 90% of the election is going to be the same people doing the same thing they did 4 years ago. And the margins at the remainder are going to depend on people getting new information. And what is new information? Well, Trump's criminal record is new information. I believe, based on my review of the evidence, that Donald Trump was at least criminally adjacent and fraudulent and probably a low-grade white-collar criminal his whole life. This is not ambiguous about whether Donald Trump is a criminal or not. He has been adjudicated to be a business fraud, a tax fraud, a fraud in charities. He's not even allowed to run a charity in New York. He's not even, his ability to do business in New York is curtailed. And so it is very important that people understand this guy is on the other side of the law. The Republican Party, Trump 2024, is now front and center campaigning against elections, juries, and courts. They're campaigning against the rule of law. They're campaigning against what America made fundamentally great. And Joe Biden is the perfect response to that. He is the soul of the nation.
Do you think there's a good case to be made that Biden is actually in better shape than it looks right now because voters are just beginning to pay attention?
It is very hard to find people who are genuinely swing voters now. Very hard. Just imagine if you're a swing voter in this environment, if you were available to decide, you would have decided by now. 10, maybe 15% of the electorate. They are not going to decide early. They've made that very clear. So they will decide when they have to. It's usually a couple months out, usually right after Labor Day. And that's when they start paying attention. So if they are answering your polls accurately today in June, they're not a swing voter. And if they're a swing voter, they're not answering your polls accurately.
Longer term, if we survive the 2024 election as a country, is the message of the Democratic Party going to pivot and not be about Republican extremism?
If we win this fight now, aren't we going to have the same fight in the future? Yes. The fight between human good and human evil is permanent. You will not have a permanent victory against evil ways of human self-organizing. You can only have your generation's victory. Our moment right now, the threat is Trump. If we defeat him, I believe that he will go to jail and his movement will collapse. And it will be amazing how many Republicans never supported him, really, in their heart of hearts. And it'll be done.
How do we move the electorate to a more fundamentally favorable view of Democrats? And is that what Biden's second term should be about?
We need to win more in the world of ideas and in the world of vibes and the world of themes. And the American flag is very popular. On July 4th, it waves everywhere, including in the far left, including in communities of color. But in normal times, it is only the right that embraces it. It's like we've got this super good brand and we're deliberately choosing not to use it. The message of the Democrats, the message of Biden is the idea of America, the soul of America. This is a place where the rule of law is respected, where juries are respected, where prosperity happens because of our commitment to the Enlightenment era.
If you have kind of a central theory of politics, this jumped out to me, it's that the messaging that we all sweat about and that you and your colleagues pay for, the paid media, the politicians talking, what activists say, all the press releases that we, micromanage, that accounts for, in your estimation, about 1% to 5% of what swing voters hear. The late Hal Malchow was on a quest to get us as a party to rethink the way we do advertising, because in his estimation and in a lot of academics' estimation, from what we can measure, a lot of what we're doing is just not that effective. Do you think that the party needs a rethink of how we're delivering our message?
Yes, the answer is yes. So let's imagine I want a bunch of influencers to be talking about how great America is doing economically, against its competitors. So one way you do that is you make the arguments, and it's incredibly one-sided. Of course, this is the best economy in the world right now, and Biden is good at presidenting. And this is now the second time that Biden has saved the economy from the smoking ruin of a Republican misgovernance. So hello. But so there's facts. So that's the case. But doesn't work very well. If you do a well-crafted ad and you push it out, then you're spending it on TV. That's very expensive. Even if you're doing it in digital, it's very expensive. If you're trying to reach people in swing states, it's even more expensive. You have to reach them 7 to 10 times for it to stick. And if you reach them now, it's mostly decayed by the time they vote. And if you want to reach them later, it's even more expensive. So the whole thing's a big mess. Now we're looking at a single human being who is a messenger and an influencer, a messenger influencer, and they have their own content spin on things, and we want to get content to them, right? If the influencer is, some liberal redneck who's going to appeal in North Carolina, maybe you give him some stuff making fun of how much better our economy is doing than the French, And that, with his little soft, that's the thing. The thing I like about Joe Biden's economy, we're kicking those French's ass. It might be China, with someone else, it might be some other thing, with someone else.
My most recent article, I'm trying to be intentionally provocative. And I say that the Democratic Party should hire Christopher Nolan, that it's time to start thinking outside the box in the ways that we try to communicate. We know that ads are especially tuned out by the exact people that Dmitri was just talking about, the double haters, the late breakers, the people who are not tuned in. They hate advertising. They hate politics. And guess what they hate most of all? Political advertising. You're not going to break through to those people. We have academic research that shows that entertainment, movies, they work. They change people's attitudes in an enduring way. Out of what hole did Donald Trump crawl? Reality TV. So my challenge to Democrats is, why don't we take a portion on the margin of the growth in ad spending that we are going to spend and just have a crash project? There are some liberals in Hollywood. I'm confident of this. Why don't we turn to the most talented storytellers on earth and unleash them? I'm not saying necessarily that we need to make a bunch of movies. I'm just suggesting that we could try some other directions on the margin.
I agree with all of it, pretty much. So let me break out a few things that you said. One thing, just to be clear, is take a little bit of money that we were going to spend on ads and instead spend it on something better. More money spent on good stuff is good. So just think about where the money could go. In terms of where the money could go, I sometimes think about football. A football strategy can just be an absolute, A new style like Bill Walsh or something comes along and just destroys the league, and then the league adapts. And then if you try to run those same weak-ass plays, you actually lose because the other team is teed off on you. And so a lot of the things that work in one cycle, people develop immune reactions in the next cycle. And one of the things that is really true is that the swing voters are the ones who've developed the immunity. So whatever was working last time is presumptively not going to work this time. I agree with you that we should bring in lots of new voices. There's a whole category around integrating Hollywood storytelling, and there's a lot of conversations about that, and there's a lot of good there, just in terms of people's willingness to hear stuff. You guys are familiar with the Real Voter Voices Project, where they got their own members to saying that they were planning to show up and vote for this Democrat for Congress. Right? And we invested a lot in the 2018 midterms because we were trying to figure out what would work and what didn't. I was super skeptical about this, and I was wrong. It broke through, like in a big way. It was a major, and even though it was strategically a target market that was not obviously low-hanging fruit, the operational innovation worked because people were not immune to other people being authentic. They were immune to the slick. And so the Move On people actually started working closely with some of the Never Trump Republican people and building this out. Sarah Longwell's rvat.org page. There's a specific thing that I want to point you to, which is Republican Voters Against Trump. She worked with the people at Move On who helped develop Real Voter Voices and built a version of it that was Republicans. And it was very much the same sort of thing. And what Sarah ended up doing with a bunch of videos, one of her videos that got tons of views was a 40-year-old dude after a day of work, sitting on the back of his pickup with the sun going down, shirtless, smoking a filterless Marlboro or maybe a Camel, and just saying that he voted for Trump and he was really sorry about it. And he never voted Democrat in his life, but he would vote for a can of tomatoes if that's who the Democrats put up, because it would do less damage than Donald Trump. He feels really bad and sorry to his family and everybody for the mistake of voting for him. And then she got those and she would get people to agree to put up their names and faces on billboards. So it would be like your face in black and white, your first name, the city where you live, and then 3 big bullet points about you in all caps, white on black. And the first 2 bullets were some combination of key Republican signifiers. I'm a veteran. I'm a combat veteran. I'm a religious conservative. I'm a Trump voter. I'm a Republican, whatever. The third bullet was always, I'm voting for Joe Biden. It's not an accident that Jeffrey Katzenberg is Biden's campaign chair. He's trying to produce Biden, and people are coming in from Hollywood to give ideas. We have brought in my team investing in us. We have some serious creative talent working to help us, with the narrative stuff for exactly the reasons you said.
If there's any project that Democrats could think about in between elections that would burnish the brand of the Democratic Party, it would be something that would invest to try to reinvigorate the idea of we can trust what government does. I just wonder if there is something that can be injected into the ecosystem that works on that fundamental proposition of, yeah, we actually believe in our own government and our own institutions again.
Yeah, I agree with that. The larger brand question is about trust in shared institutions.
Right.
Okay. We used to think of it as trust in government, maybe even trust in big government, but that's not it. That's wrong. I mean, it's too narrow. Because Republicans had plenty of good times with big government if it was, big government for abortion control, to control women, right? Or big government under, Trump and George W. Bush handed out to crony capitalists, right? Like, it's not about big or small government. It's about, do you trust the institutions of a complicated system? When civilizations lose shared trust, it is very hard to get things done at scale. You've got to delegate power to people. And if they keep your power without doing what they said they were going to do, the whole thing breaks down. Right now, the Democrats have an opportunity to say, America is great. We are flawed and we want to get better, but we are great. And we are great because we respect the law. We respect the rule of law. We respect juries. We believe that independent and unanimous juries can be trusted, that judges can be trusted, that things can work, that expertise can be believed. And when you do those things, you get greatness. And the Republican Party is directly attacking all of those things. They are chaos agents attacking the underlying systems that we all rely upon.